So if I look in my render file, which I totally need to clean up, you can see what I did is I have it set up as a sort of a circle, and with like small rocks in the center, and then the rocks getting bigger. I kind of like that look. And you don't really have that much when we have the explosion. It's like kind of clean in the center, and then there's also not too much stuff which these pieces can collide with. And then when you go out, it will have more rocks, and then when the whole stuff starts flowing, it sort of stops around this outer edge. So let's also do that in our actual main scene. So let's go in there. All right, so go up and let's start setting this up. Okay, so let's make a new geometry node and call this rock. I guess scattered, or this, yeah, scattered rocks or something. Something like that. And let's go in there. Let's object merge something in. What do we want to merge in? Well, we want to object merge in our landscape. Let's object merge in the OBJ node, just in case we were to transform it, which we're not going to do. So something like that. Okay, so we need to get an attribute on here that sort of moves outward. Well, there's multiple ways actually we could get this attribute on there. Generally, I just do attribute transfer because then we have nice slider controls. It's not the fastest, but I get like for something like this, I just like having that control. And again, you could do it in Vex or VOPs or like with a length or other stuff, but I just like attribute transfer for something like that because it's just very direct, and I can just easily move stuff around. So that's what I just generally do. So let's add a point, and that point will be added in the center. We probably want to move it up a little bit. So I'll move it down again a little bit. Moved it up too much. All right, so let's attribute transfer. And we need to create an attribute. So let's do a attribute create. Let's call it, let's say p-scale. And let's make it 0 on the ground and 1 on our point. Or the other way 1, by the way, because we wanted to do we want to do that? Let me look at my file. Probably. By the way, let's give it another name because we're gonna write it out later as our let's call it density. That's what I also did in my original file. Density, let's make it 0, and let's create a 1 on our points, probably. Just I'm having my my original file on my second screen, so that's why my mouse sometimes moves away. Now let's turn down this thing and let's move up our blend width. Let's do a scatter, and on our density attribute, let's enable it, and then we get, you can see we get density. Right, so if we then, we can sort of blend this out, blend width and out width. And what we probably want to do is turn off relaxed iterations. So then we get more chaotic look, which I kind of like. Probably want to move this out a lot more. Right. So I guess something like that. All right, that's pretty good. So let's do a p-scale. Let's attribute randomize. P-scale. Let's do it between maybe 0.1 and 1. So we're going to get some p-scale stuff. Let's copy to point something so we can just check what it looks like. So let's just do a sphere for now. We just have something to look at. Let's turn on backend instance, highlight it. All right. It looks quite okay. So now what we kind of need to do is we need to tell it that it should be bigger on the outside and smaller on the inside. Okay, so what we can do is we can create an attribute wrangle. Let's put it in here. Okay, so let's say that we want, because what we did here is we created pscale. Let's say that over here, what we want to say is that at pscale, we want to say times equals. So we're going to multiply this by something. And then we're going to say fit 0, 1. We want to fit something that is between 0 and 1. That's what this thing says. If you do regular fit, then you're going to tell it what the input is. And if you say fit 0, 1, then it's going to be something that's between 0 and 1. What attribute do we have that's between 0 and 1? Well, we have our density. And we're going to fit it to 1, 0. Okay. So you can see this already works. So if I look at my geometry spreadsheet here, so our density is between 0 and 1. And then we're fitting it, and then we're multiplying our pscale by that value. So essentially what then it's doing is inverting it. So then everything here will be super small and then will be bigger over there. So maybe we don't want it to be completely small in the beginning. So let's do something like this. Let's change it like that. Yeah. So then we kind of have what we want. Probably what we want to do is want to object merge our rock in here. And let's connect it so we have a better view of what it's going to look like. So we merge our rock in. Let's just delete our sphere. So kind of have, let's have a look. I already changed some parameters because the reason why it looks why there was sort of a gap in between the edit was because my microphone got disconnected when the recording. So I'm re-recording a little part here. Anyway, so what I did is also I really increased the distance and I changed the blend width. So we have these scattered over like a larger area and also turned down the scatter density a little bit. So some other stuff that maybe you want to do is maybe we want sliders for this. So let's say channel F, channel float, max. And the other one, channel F, min. So it's going to be the minimum. And then we're going to click this button and we're going to have sliders. So now we have some control over that. And some other thing that maybe we want to do is that maybe we want a couple of rocks to be a lot bigger. So what can we do? Well, let's say float R. And again, R here is just a placeholding variable. So it's, you could call it whatever you want. You could also call it G's. So let's do R. Float R equals, it's called a rand function. So rand will generate a rand function. So if I press F1 on here, it will open up the help. Creates a random number between 0 and 1 from a seed. So what will be our seed? Our seed will be the point number. So then we have our random point number. And then let's say that what we want to do is if R is above, so this will be between 0 and 1, like I said. If it's above maybe 0.95, we're going to say at pscale times equals 2. So you can see now a couple of rocks will be bigger. So now let's say maybe I don't like that distribution. So what I could say is I want to change my seed to be point number plus channel integer seed. I'm going to add something to the point number. Click create sliders. So then we have some control. Okay, so that. So yeah, something else what we probably want to do is we want to change our orientations. So let's do an attribute randomize. Put it in here. So by default it says to color. We don't want it. We want it to be orient. So you can see nothing happens. It's because orient is it needs to be a quaternion. So quaternions are a little bit tricky to understand. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but essentially it needs 4 dimensions, and it's a better way of orienting copies. You can also orient them with a normal. So if I would put it to n, this would also work, but let's do it on orient. Let's put it to 4. And then you can see they already rotate. But by default, this will go from 0 to -1. If we put this to inside sphere, then it will by default go to between 1 and -1. So then we have more, then they won't bias towards a certain direction. It will actually be sort of orienting every direction. And then there's options here that we want for sort of changing that stuff and then bias towards the direction, but let's not do that. We just only want to rotate them. So yeah, now we got some rocks. Yeah, now what we want to do is, instead of doing this copy thing, let's instance a random rock on these points. So then we have something random to be in here. And by the way, maybe what I don't think I want points to be in the absolute center here. So I guess what I could do is say that, I think I did it a little bit differently in the original thing, but let's say that, let's put a wrangle. Let's see if this actually works. But if at density is above 0.95, remove point. So remove point will remove points based on whatever. So you can see now I'm gonna delete stuff based on the density. So I say make it 0.99. So then we don't have stuff completely in the center. We could also scatter those later, but I kind of don't want to have to deal with these rocks also being blown upward. I just want these to be static, and then we're going to shatter our ground thing to sort of explode it outward. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to assign random instances on these rocks. So let's remove these copy to points. Let's write a little script to call these instances so we can sort of place them, place random instances from our file to our copies.